Why, hello everyone. How are you? Are we doing well today, lads? Yes. I was supposed to work tonight, but due to car trouble, I was unable to make it to work, so here I am at home. Instead, I'm going to be working on my miniature painting for you all today. Fantastic. I mean, not the worst trade-up in the world ever, you know? But, yeah. Hello, Shadowhawk, what's up? And Pierce, what's up? Weekend painting stream right alongside the Bob Ross stream. Hey, you tuning in for the joy of painting, are you? Yeah, I'm gonna be working on my Hormagaunts today. Yeah, I got this bad boy. I'm actually going to do a batch paint. Because I was just going to do like one at a time and be more careful with it. But, you know, it's only like 3 or 4 colors. 5 or 6 if you include the base. So let me grab the other ones real quick. And then we'll jump right on into it. I've been keeping them over here on the bookshelf. This right here should be good starting amount. It's not all of them that are primed, but it's a good chunk. Yes, Tyranids in all the glory they should be in. There we are. The whole, well, not the whole, but a good chunk of the swarm. So, as I said, we're going to be batch painting. So, for those who don't know how batch painting works, it's pretty simple. Each one of these guys, I do one color on them, then I move on to the next one color on them, next color, one color on them, and you basically just cover all of their bases, both literally and figuratively, before you all move on to the next. So basically, you do one step on each of them, and you rinse, repeat. That's batch painting, and it can be actually quite tedious. So if you're not really used to that, this can get actually kind of a little bit somewhat frustrating. Apologize for the dog upstairs. Actually, I'd turn the music just a notch or two. There. Okay. So, like I say, I suppose I can't say I'm anywhere near as relaxing as Bob Ross, though. That would be a bit bold of me to claim. I mean, Bob Ross is the king of relaxation. I agree with Count Dankula from his Absolute Mad Lad on the good old boy. The reality is such a weird thing because Bob Ross was a drill sergeant. Like, the man was a drill sergeant. I don't know how I can't imagine him yelling. Like, I can't imagine him even raising his voice. And that's what drill sergeants do. They just scream. That's like their job. So, like, when I learned that from Dang's video, and to this day, I'm still like, nah, that's gotta be some BS he made. Like, I don't, at the same time, though, if I didn't believe Bob Ross was one of those types of men that just cannot really lie either, I'm conflicted. I'm fucking conflicted. It's like, a part of me I cannot believe him being a drill sergeant. But another part of me knows the man isn't exactly a liar, so what's the takeaway here? What's the takeaway? Is he lying? And if that's the case, then that doesn't feel like Bob. That doesn't feel like him either. Like I just, make your brain all fry out because it's like, wait, the man was definitely not the type to lie, even about small things. But I don't ever imagine him yelling. So I'm conflicted to this day. But yeah, the joys of painting, and let's say that definitely applies to what we're doing right now. The joy of painting miniatures. Bump myself close enough to this. Stay focused here. Okay, so just make sure focus is more on that level. There we go. Because I'm going to be holding the mini like at this, about this level for most of the stream. And the happy little Tyranid, and happy little hive, and a happy little hive fleet. Happy little Tyranid. Just going to paint this Tyranid here, a little bit of red. And make sure all of his little buddies share in the glory there. I don't think I could ever pull off like that man's calm. It's just, yeah. The one thing to this day I still don't doubt is that Bob Ross smoked a doobie. Like I just, for me again, it's one of those things like I just cannot. I'm sure men like that exist, and if there was one that truly did it without doing any kind of the devil's cabbage, it's definitely Bob Ross. But I don't know, like if someone told me like, hey, Bob Ross smoked weed, I'd be like, no shit. Like the man was weed. Just super chill, calm, eerily so at times. But anyway, enough of Bob Ross. Well, I guess we can keep talking about him, but mostly it's just praise. I mean, he was one of the coolest, dappiest. I think that's the wrong word I want to use there. He was awesome. Bob Ross was awesome. And may he rest in peace. That's for sure. Yes. I'm trying to do this quick and dirty, but at the same time, I'm just, because since it's a batch paint, taking too much time on these guys is gonna be a bit of a hassle. Also loved small fluffy craters. Yes. Yes, he did. What was the name of that pocket squirrel he used to have? I think it was the most popular one. At least I've seen like the most like number of like wholesome reposts about him include that little pocket squirrel. Some people have pocket sand. Mr. Ross had his little squirrel. You don't remember? Yeah, I don't remember either. That's why I'm asking. Tried to befriend an alligator too when he was a kid. Just, if you don't know anything about Bob Ross, like you're watching my stream right now, you don't know anything about Bob Ross, please go check out Count Dankula's Absolute Mad Lads. Bob Ross. Go check it out. You will not regret it. I think a friend of mine once jokingly called Bob Ross Rob Boss. That's kind of a funny nickname for him. I'm not gonna lie. Just kind of divulge shit while I paint here. Life has been stressful lately. It has been wicked stressful. To the point where I've been more than usual avoiding talking about it to like friends and family, but I suppose I'll do it here just because content for the stream. Things have been pretty rough and taxing lately. A couple days ago, my sister got into a car crash. Now, I'm not sticking to negative topics the whole time, but just kind of getting some stuff off my chest right in the go here. My sister, unfortunately, got into a car crash. Before anyone freaks out, it was the car was the most damaged thing in the whole scenario. So she's fine. It was a bit of a scare though, because we recently found out she was pregnant. So. Yeah, I was terrified. I'm not gonna lie. Like, when I was initially told, I was just told, oh, she was in a car accident, and It scared me. It scared me a lot. Because car accidents certainly are serious at the best of times, even for families who haven't experienced any tragedy related to it. But our birth father, me and my sister's birth father, who I never got to know because he died in a car crash when I was a wee little baby Asmo. I was a wee little baby, and unfortunately, he lost control of his vehicle and bye-bye. So, I think that's why, in particular, like that event frightened me. It just, I was afraid the universe was gonna have a little bit of a very dark sense of twisted irony. But thankfully, she's okay. She's more pissed than hurt, I would say. So that's good. And I think that's it for like serious stuff I'll bring up. I got that off my chest pretty quick. So let's talk about something more positive. I recently found out at my local game store, actually a more local game store, JP got rockets. I don't know if I said that correctly. My apologies. Got rockets. Coincidence being what it is, you are working on a hive tyrant. Nice. I hope your progress is going well. What hive fleet, if you have one, or is it a custom non-hive fleet that you're doing for a theme? Or is it a commission? I don't know. I'm curious. Give me the deets. I always love me the deets. My theme that I'm going with my Tyranids is this. This is an example of one of my Tyranid warriors that's finished. Dark purple terrain, kind of giving like an alien vibe that they're on a very non-Earth-like world. Dark purple being the base, dry brush of almost like a pink, very whited out purple. I was going for a cornate theme. The idea I had was, these are Tyranids that, though Tyranids are known for being unaffected by the warp, this is a rare, weird case where a whole hive fleet somehow became susceptible. I'm still like workshopping in my brain how I would explain it, like, homebrew wise, but I'm thinking that it's because the hive tyrant and the overmind, I'm trying to think of the specific unit in Tyranid terms, but the overmind died mid-travel during warp, and so their psionic, brains were all screwed up, and they didn't, have any replacements for like control of all of it, and then all of a sudden the warp then fed into that psionic vulnerability and corrupted them, and Khorne was the one who took advantage. So, thus creating Khornate Tyranids. Although, effectively speaking, in terms of like the game rules, I'm just using Hive Fleet Behemoth, I believe. Hive Fleet Behemoth, yeah. I don't think it's Leviathan. No, that wouldn't be Leviathan. That would be Behemoth. So I'm using that. Custom white and blue, University of Kentucky colors. Oh, okay. So you're just going, okay. That's cool though. Yeah, for me, I have like a whole homebrew like lore thing in my head. Alright, did I finish? Nope, I didn't. I almost said, did I finish applying the red? I have not finished applying the red. There's still crevices and base coated. Though you're having second thoughts, and the intrusive thought is pivot and go gray bodies and orange carapace. Ooh. That could be cool. I don't know. I guess it depends on, how much are you disliking? Well, maybe I don't know if it's a case of dislike versus like, but how much are you like disliking the current theme you're going with for the University of Kentucky versus the other themes you're going with? The other theme you're currently thinking about. Or go Broncos, New York Islanders, and split the difference between orange and blue. Okay. I take it you're a sports fan. No way, no. What would give you that idea? sports fan. There's absolutely no reason I would think that. I do think that's interesting though, like being inspired to like paint your armies after like a favorited or enjoyed sports team. Typically, when I think of homebrew like paint schemes or colors or custom colors or anything like that, I typically think people just like go with like a lore idea they have. But yeah, I guess I should also take into account sometimes people just want to do like a color theme that's they just find interesting or they relate to for like in something else that they're interested in. I think sometimes maybe I just overthink it. What? Me overthink? Never. You do like some sports from time to time? Okay. Yeah, I used to be more into sports. Jeez, when I was a kid, I was a huge football guy. I was favorite team is the Patriots. I grew up in New England, still live in New England, so I'm a big Patriots fan for football. I never really got into soccer or European football, so I can't really comment on that. Ludus, welcome to the stream. How are you, my sexy man? I will take this opportunity to ask you guys, how do you guys think the stream looks so far? Because the frame rate is a bit reduced because the DSLR I have it set to the 4K setting, but to do that it only goes up to 30 frames per second 4K, so hate to do that. Women's volleyball is a sport of men of culture. I think we've seen the same YouTube clips. Whoever came up with like the uniforms for all that, like I know the uniforms, like all men of culture memes aside, are definitely made to like minimize how much drag or how much the clothing restricts an individual from like their performance and everything. But it looks good and been a busy ass day. First time I've been able to get near my PC today. Yeah, feel you there. I was supposed to be at work right now, but due to car trouble I wasn't able to get there. And I am worried work is gonna be pissed about it, but I have proof. Like I can show them exactly what happened, so I'm not too worried about it. Alright, so I think we got the base coat of red on that one done. Boom. I'll put my two finished ones on the side here. I always like to have like a finished mini like next to me or something, so I can always like reference it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I can always look at it and go, alright, that's the goal. Batch painting be the thing. It's fine? Alright, thanks. Oh, I grabbed my wrong brush. This is the one I want. Actually, now that I've grabbed it though, do I want to use this one? I will use this one because it is probably going to hold more paint, so I have to go back to the palette list. Quick and dirty like. I like my minis like my women. Done quick and dirty. Which isn't even true in either sense. I dare someone to try that pickup line. That would be hilarious to see attempted, actually. Whoever came up with the uniform needs an award. Yes, the award of men's appreciation award. On behalf of our entire gender, you are championed. Thank you for your service to literal mankind. Okay, speaking of speaking of men for a moment here. Recently, on my recommendeds, it was the first time I've seen her videos recommended to me in like forever. And I'm not going to get political, at least I'm going to avoid it. I don't like politics, especially in my content. But an individual YouTuber called Shuon Head, I think some people will know her. She recently did a video talking about men's issues, specifically and again, I'm not going to get into the rabbit hole of it too much, just giving the gist of like what I saw. She went into I'll put it like this. She went into and talked about men's issues, so to speak. And the specific topic is how the left in the United States is very annoyed that they're not really getting any young male support, especially young white men. Again, not getting in the weeds of this. And you know, and the crux of like what I'm taking away from it in the conversation is, you know, men aren't doing too great right now. Our YouTube doesn't like me using that word. Our checkout early rates are a lot higher than they've ever been. There's a lot more isolation, less close friendships amongst men. And, you know, and a lot of stuff that I relate to as a younger man. I am, you know, in my early 20s. I'm almost 24. Still got exactly, not exactly, a month and some change to go before I hit 24. Right now I'm 23. And, you know, when I reflect upon like this conversation that's happening right now, first of all, I'm shocked that people are even talking about it. Because I've been a little bit black-pilled about like men's issues when it comes to it. Like I typically, when I think of men's issues, I don't think of it as something that is discussed, that is brought up, or that is even really considered by the general populace, even by other men. Like, yeah, there are going to be some outlying men that do feel the need to be outspoken about it and talk about these issues. But I tend to think like most men are just not. Are more like myself, like more reserved, less interested in bringing up our issues because, you know, oftentimes we're mocked to hell and back if we do bring up our issues. Like, typically the conversation is always about women's issues. It's always about women's problems and women's things. And again, I'm not trying to start like a men versus women thing here. Not that I think many women watch me, but regardless. I just find it interesting that it's being brought up now, but for me, it's kind of weird that it's being brought up now, because I feel like a lot of these things have been issues for a long time, like, again, the checking out early rate. That's been a thing for a long-ass time, and men's rates have been a lot higher than women's for a long-ass time. It's been like that forever, and now that people are bringing it up and talking about it and are worried about it, I'm just wondering, is it just because people are starting to feel the effects of it just now? Like, people are just realizing it's an issue now? I don't know, like, not to be a bitter, like, you know, ass, but, it just kind of makes me chuckle. It's like now you care. Like, where was this conversation and where was this big motion like a decade ago? Again, this has been a huge issue for a long time, and you didn't really see people giving a shit about it then. Why are people giving a shit about it now? I think it's because the effects of it are being felt now. So, 22 a day, hard to ignore. And yeah, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but yeah, it's just I tend to, you know, I feel like the dread or like the difficulties of men on the daily too. Like I wouldn't put myself outside of like the percentages that are struggling right now. I think most men are relating to the general feeling of like hopelessness, loneliness. Like, that's pretty common. I've been pretty blessed with like my YouTube community and finding, you know, these IRL friendships and the like. You know, I've been very blessed in that regard. And that's probably why I'm still around right now. And that's kind of why I brought up the topic, is a huge part of the conversation, like Shoe on Head and others have been discussing about it. A huge part of it has been how, oh, well, a lot of, like, the reason men are becoming this way is because they can find pseudo-satisfaction in regards to, like, the relationships and stuff online. And they talked about it in a very negative context. And for me, it's both. It's not a whole negative or a whole positive. Like the whole online pseudo relationship and pseudo interaction stuff. I get why it's being talked about in a negative context. I get why that's an interpretation that is being had. Because after all, relationships are, and this is without a question, far more meaningful when they are in person. Like when you can physically interact with a person. Like there's something so fundamentally important about having that level of a connection. But I can acknowledge that, but also talk about how these pseudo internet connections are still positive, because a lot of men that would have checked out early are here today, and I would consider myself amongst them because of the internet and because of being able to connect with people via a wider net of people via internet services. I just don't like the idea that people are now especially now writing off like internet relationships entirely and are disregarding them and saying like, oh well, you know, this is what's leading to men's, you know, falter. If you ask me, it's the one thing holding men up at the moment. It's the one thing keeping a lot of men afloat, is the fact that due to the fact they can't find meaningful relationships in their immediate circles, they can find it through the wider circle that is like the internet. So that's something I kind of wanted to bring up about that conversation that's been bothering me. Is I don't think people are really considering that element enough. And again, I'm not here saying that, oh, you know, we should all only focus, and the most important thing is we should focus on like these pseudo internet maintained relationships. No, we should, not only as men, but like every person, right, should strive to have in-person connections and relationships and fundamental what's the word I'm looking for? Fundamental interconnections that they can actually exercise in real life. You know, a physical person that they can interact with and see and converse, and you can watch their body language and connect with them directly. That is very important, and that should be the end goal with any internet relationship, is, you know, whether it's romantic, whether it's friendship, whether it's whatever, you should always have on your mind a hope that you can one day meet those people, interconnect with them, and establish the physical connect. Again, like friendship wise, not like, yeah, you can hug it out, yeah, you can like handshake, but it's more just, when I say physical, I don't mean like literally like you're touching each other, but it's the idea that you could. Like, there's something about the human psyche and the human brain that really needs that validation of like it's real. Like that would solidifies it subconsciously for a lot of people, and I think that's what's necessary. And I think when a relationship, friendship or otherwise, is only ever digital, eventually over time, your mind can't help but start to disregard it and not consider it a legitimate connection or relationship. I think that happens to a lot of people, especially young men. Especially younger men right now that, you know, haven't... when I say younger men, I'm specifically talking about the generation right now that are turning into, and I think the term that Shuon had used was kikokomori or hikokomori. It's the Japanese phenomenon where young men are basically turning into shut-ins. Like they're getting literally all of their social interaction and meaningful connections via internet services, and they're not really at all interacting or connecting with other people in a real setting. So I think, you know, over time that does become a pervasive subconscious like thought, is like, oh, you know, yes, I know logically that the person I'm talking to, like via the internet and stuff, and maybe you've been on voice calls with them, you've been on video chats and all that, you know, I know that they're a real person, I know that they're someone I can meet and interact with, but the invasive thought is, but I don't get to see them. I don't get to hear their voice with my own ears. I have to hear it through another device, filtered, disconnected. And I think that eats at a lot of people. I think it does. Especially, again, the younger generation that don't have or haven't had any like meaningful in-person connections and relationships. So again, I think the conversation starting to like disregard like those internet relationships, I think is a disservice to the conversation. I think a lot of people need to acknowledge the positives, but acknowledge the eventual negative and risk with relationships becoming too dependent on like the digital age. Like I'm saying, like eventually the goal should be to like meet the people you interact with on the internet in person. You know, and that's kind of my hope with my community is like I'm hoping one day to meet Nathan, to meet Ludus, maybe even meet Shadowhawk. I don't know if he's interested in like having to meet up at like a bar or hanging out, but you know, meeting you guys eventually would be nice. Whether it's at a Comic-Con, whether it's at some kind of panel event, whether it's at like maybe I just do like a get together with the boys. Like I just try and set it up. We all save money and we all meet up at the closest we can find to like a mutual location. I don't know. I think all that would be an awesome goal. Unfortunately, it requires a lot of money because most of my community are spread across the entire fucking planet. I got friends, I got people who are in Germany. I got people in Bulgaria. I got, Ludus being a more closer example. Like he's right in the States, just a couple states away from me. Then I got, friends in Arizona. I got friends in Texas, etc., etc. I got people spread out. So if I ever want to do a meetup with y'all at once, it would basically be a convention. But I do think that is an eventual goal I would like to like move towards. I think, and I would hope anyway, a lot of y'all agree with that being a goal, with like the relationships that are formed and established online. Let me catch up with chat a little bit. While I was on that little monologue, I wasn't reading too carefully. Friendship is magic. I mean, as much of a joke that is, I would say there's a reason like that is like a staple of like kids media, and not even just kids media, but some adult media, with like friendship is magic. I as much as I do, it's a joke obviously, but I just noticed there's a huge bit of the connection plastic right there that I just painted over and primed over. I'm going to ignore it and pretend that's not there. I'm not going to be able to. I will snip it off later, but fuck it. I hate when that happens. Okay, that's a big one too. Like there's a protrusion that it's a sprue connection right there, like on the arm, that I should have noticed and gotten rid of. Why didn't I? Why? I will remove you later, you son of a bitch. Yeah, where was I? Yes, I was trying to catch up. Hey, Matthew Gordon. How you doing, you sexy man? I'm batch painting my Hormagaunts. I love this red. Like, this is, I will show you guys the bottle in a second, but this is Vallejo's Bloody Red. And it works really well for, like, a demon skin. Or a demonic, like, red skin. Like, just base red out of the bottle. Not even mixed with anything. Nice and vibrant. Nice and powerful, but not, like, too bright. It's definitely not glossy when it dries. 26th next month. Nice. So, wait, you were also born in September? Well, what do you know? We're both September babies. That, you're slightly older than I am. Honestly, one of the reasons I haven't committed to toasterbat.exe, Jesus. is in large part due to small circle and among male friends. Asmo was top dog. Also, Karn and Tang have kept me whole too. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like we've helped keep each other around, and that's why I hate that part of the narrative being talked about from both sides. Again, this is kind of, it's not a specific political party talking about it like this. Both are, although nah, I'm not gonna say that. But both are kind of talking about the whole like pseudo connections that you make online, and they're completely disregarding them as like a negative straight out. And like when it comes to like the whole suicide rate oh crap, I said it. Fuck. The whole checkout rate. Yeah, like what that whole conversation leads to, in a lot of ways, disastrously, to this this narrative where we just need to like completely like take the internet out of the equation. I don't think that's the case. I just think a lot of people are saying that because they're seeing, because there is a lot of damage like internet based stuff is doing to like men and young men and stuff. Like I agree with that notion. I just don't agree that it's like all connections made via it are inherently negative and are related to the rates. I think in fact the reason the rates aren't worse, and I genuinely believe this, is because people are like young men are still able to formulate relationships online. If we weren't able to do that, I think the rate would be a lot higher. And I'm not saying that as like a good thing. I'm not saying that's just more horrifying, but that should be really kept into account when we have this conversation about the checkout rate. Like it's to talk about it like it's a contributing factor. I think it is eventually, but people aren't acknowledging that the connections being formed via like these internet relationships are providing a stopper. Like it's like a checkpoint. Where a lot of men's psyche might be like taking an absolute like plummet. I think like those internet relationships people are young men and are able to form is like a ledge catch. Like it's something for them to latch onto from completely falling into despair and try and help pull themselves up. But like I said, over time, if you don't like validate the relationship in some way and make it feel more real, I do think young men do eventually start to make it like they start to think of it and feel about it as artificial completely, even if they've confirmed again that the other person on the other end is real. Like just a part of the human brain needs in-person interaction, or you just fall apart. Like just everything over like the phone or over like the internet, it lasts, and again it's a ledge as you fall to hold on to. But over time you start to lose your grip again if you don't pull yourself up. And I think a huge part of helping you pull yourself up is validating those relationships. Again, both romantic and friendship-wise. I think that's necessary. We're getting into some interesting topics on this stream. I did not expect to go this direction, but here we are. Alright, actually I'm just going to keep doing them by holding them by the base. At this point, I'm just like painting the red on, so it's not necessary for me to go too crazy. Want to meet you guys and my best friend Cody, but my family is against it because they think meeting people you know online is dangerous. Well, it can be, and that is a fair fear to have. Like your parents are not wrong to have that concern. There's steps people do need to take for your like safety reasons when it comes to like first of all, if you ever meet up with someone you only know from the internet, always do so in a public setting, like at a pub, at a cafe, at a movie theater, somewhere where there's lots of other people. Just, so if something happens, you can immediately yell out for help and get a near instant response. At the very least, someone else calling the police on your behalf fairly quickly. Like there's definitely safety procedures you do need to keep in mind when it comes to meeting, people you've only formulated relationships with online. Because there are shitty people, unfortunately, that will play the long game and will try and manipulate and screw with your head and try and lull you into a sense of security and then take advantage of that. Like, there are evil people in this world that will do all that, and they'll think of it as no different than you or I doing our day job. Like, it's just like, oh, okay, this is just, you know, me clocking in for the day doing my shit. There are people that bad out there. Absolutely. So, but in my opinion, if you're an adult, if you're a child, just straight up don't meet anybody who's trying to with you on, like, online. Like, just don't ever do that. If you're a kid, if you're younger than 18, just don't do that ever. If you only know someone from the internet and they want to meet up in real life, don't. Absolutely do not fucking do that. I don't care how much, like, of themselves they've shared with you, how much proof they've given, just don't fucking do it. But if you're an adult, again, like, as an adult, you should be able to make your own decision in that regard and be able to make an adult's measure to the safety of the situation. You know, once you're an adult, you have the agency to do that. And you're presumably at least a little bit experienced in real life, so you know what nefariousness to look for. You know, that's there for you to reference. That experience, even if you haven't actually directly experienced anything bad, you've lived life a little bit and you've seen what a nasty person is like, what a good person is like. You know, you at the very, very baseline, you know that there's something to look for in terms of, like, how someone's treating you. And if there is something behind it that is not quite genuine. But again, like, if you take all the necessary safety precautions when it comes to meeting someone, there's no reason you shouldn't make the attempt. Like, for me, I'd love to meet, like, my Discord community in a public setting. Like, you know, go to a bar, a pub, or, you know, maybe we all meet up at a movies or an arcade, somewhere, you know, where we can all, like, somewhere public, but also, you know, has enough privacy where we can, like, have a conversation without being drowned out by other people. You know, but that kind of meetup, and of course, all of my community are adults. At least all the ones I interact with on a daily basis are adults, and certainly all the ones on the Discord. So, all of that would be an adult decision for us to meet up. So there is some nuance to be had when it comes to the conversation of, like, meeting people you've formulated relationships with online and how cautious or suspicious to be about it. But again, if you're an adult, you should be able to make the measure of the people you interact with. And again, as long as you take safety precautions, there's no reason to give it a shot, give it a chance. Yeah, in Utah. Love to move country, but family is against it. I mean, again, you're an adult. If you have the resources and you have the drive to move where you want, like, that's up to you. But, you know, sometimes your family tells you not to do something because they've experienced something similar. So, you know, probe them a bit about it. You know, if your family has a reason for not wanting you to move outside of just worry that you won't have enough of a support base, you know, have that conversation with them. But at the end of the day, you are an adult. Your choices are your own, and they shouldn't be... Like, your agency is also your own as an adult. Like, the one upside with being an adult through all the bullshit you have to put up with is, at the very least, you can make your own decisions and pay the consequence or reap the benefits, or both. That's kind of the benefit of it. Okay, I'm just trying to catch up with chat right now, so I'm going to take a break from basing. Doing some of the base coding. This is the biggest problem with our generation. People say we need to make friends. Where? It's... Again, it's not one of those things where there's a simple, clear... And that's why I hate it when people, again, talk about, like, the internet relationships like they're purely negative or purely a bad influence. I think there is plenty of bad influence and plenty of bad things. I genuinely don't think kids should be allowed online. Like, period. Like, I think little kids should not be allowed online, period. Like, personally, you know, in my own household, with my own kids, not letting them touch the internet. Not unsupervised. They want to watch Netflix and stuff like that. Obviously, that's fine. But, like, browsing, going on to forums, going on to Reddit, going on to Twitter, going on to social media. No. Fuck that. Fuck that. There's minuscule to no benefits to that for a kid. And there's an immense risk and issues. And again, you have at that point, when you open up that Pandora's box, you have no control of what your kid will experience through that, and you can't really reverse it if they see or hear or interact with somebody and it goes completely horrific. So I don't think it should be law, but I think parents should stop not only letting but facilitating their children just being online. I think that needs to stop. I think that's unhealthy. I think that's incredibly... I think if you do that as a parent, it's no different than those parents that would just turn on the TV and then like go out drinking and leave their kid in front of it, like watching Eddie Murphy's Raw by himself for like 6 hours or 7 hours or 8 hours. It's no different. Like, you're just as bad of a parent if you do that. I think you're just as bad if you just let your kid like on a smartphone browse the internet at their leisure. I think it's just incredibly bad. I think parents should not do that. And I think a lot of the time, obviously there's nuance with that situation as well. It's like, okay, well, what if a kid sneaks on their parents, phone, or they sneak on like their computer, or they do this, they do that? Then yeah, obviously that's not the parent's fault. Like, they did their best to prevent the kid from doing it, but the kid went out of their way to do it on their own anyway. You can't completely prevent a kid from doing something if they truly want to do it and they're going to defy you to do it. But you can minimize the damage done or the potential damage that they could receive. So I just think parents who buy their like 5-year-old or 8-year-old or 10-year-old even a smartphone are stupid. Like, I think if you're a parent who buys your child a smartphone at that age, you're dumb. Like, you are not a good parent for doing that. Now, you might be a good parent in every other category, but I think that shows a huge level of irresponsibility. Huge level of it. Kids at that age, their comprehension level, what they're able to understand, it is so pitiful. It is such a bad idea. I think that should always be avoided and not done. It's getting your kid a smart... Like, as a former substitute teacher, I witnessed 10-year-olds, literal 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds pulling out smartphones in class. Smartphones that they had had since they were 6 or 5. And I can tell you this, those kids cared way more about that phone than they did their own lives. And I'm not even kidding. Their own lives were less to them than that fucking smartphone. And I felt like I entered an episode of Twilight Zone. I wasn't allowed a fucking phone until, I wasn't allowed a flip phone until I was 14. And when I got one, I thought it was a gold, because I could now call my friends whenever I wanted to. That for me was a treasure. Now, literal 5-year-olds are being handed smartphones. They're literally being handed a device more powerful than the computers used to land a person on the fucking moon. It's just, it's crazy to me. I think it's irresponsible as shit. Alright, sorry about that, guys. I had to talk to my dad for a second. Alright. Just died this year. Oh, yeah, full phone. Okay, I was like, what did I miss? As a former child, I know the mischief that kids get into. Yes. That's the thing. Kids always act like you know you don't fucking know. Like I always annoyed me about like the kids at the school, at the middle school I worked at. They act that with like every adult. Like they like for some reason have this imagination that you never were one. You just came into the world like an adult. It's like I was you. I was you. I don't know what you had this imagination in your head, but I everything you think you're slick at, I did. Everything you do that's bad that you get away with, you're not getting away with it. I know you did it. I'm just letting you get away with it because it's not worth the aggravation. I only go after the things that actually matter, worth addressing. Like you throwing like a spitball at like a another student like once in the class. Yeah, I'll let it slide. But you know, you try and flip a desk. I think one of those deserves getting addressed more than the other. So you know, kids are a handful. Alright. Alright, so we just have... there's 6 right there that we've... Alright, so just so we So we inventory this real quick. This is what is done so far for the batch paint. And what's not done... Here. What's not done is... these guys. So yeah, we have 8 more to do the red, and then from there we're moving on to the black carapace. So yeah, we got a good chunk to go, but we're making good progress on the Hormagaunts. I mean, again, the eventual goal is this theme, the Cornate Corruption. Oh, sorry, there seems to be a little bit of a buffer on YouTube's front. Are you guys seeing the buffer, or am only I seeing the buffer? Because it's telling me I have excellent connection. There's a thunderstorm outside, so that will definitely affect the stream, but hopefully not too much. See nothing? Like you literally see nothing, or you see no effect? Like no buffer? I hope you see something. But yeah, like the goal is for all of them to look like this beautiful little boy. Yeah, it'd be really cool to play with my Tyranid army soon.